The massive crystal hall gleamed under the light of 3 different suns. Delegates from 47 alien species sat in their assigned seats, each one representing worlds that humans had never heard of. The air buzzed with strange languages, being translated into thoughts that every being could understand. Ambassador Zethkar stood at the center of the hall. His purple skin glistened as his 4 arms moved in graceful patterns. The tentacles on his head writhed with what other species had learned to recognize as amusement. He had been waiting for this moment for months. Fellow council member Zeth began, his voice carrying easily through the vast space. Today we discuss the primitives of the 3rd planet in the Sol system, the ones who call themselves humans. A ripple of interest moved through the assembly. The Vorthan delegates' large eyes blinked slowly. The crystalline Thamorians chimed softly to each other. Even the gas-based ethereals shifted their cloudy forms with curiosity. Zethkar activated the holographic display above his head. Images of Earth appeared, showing blue oceans and green continents. Then the images changed to show human cities, human vehicles, and human weapons. For the past 300 of their years, we have watched these creatures, Zethkar continued. They have finally achieved basic faster-than-light travel. Their first ship reached the edge of their solar system just 2 cycles ago. The image shifted to show Captain Jake Morrison's exploration vessel, the New Horizon. It looked crude compared to the sleek ships used by council species. Metal plates were welded together in simple patterns. The weapons were basic projectile systems. The life support looked barely adequate. As you can see, Zethkar said with clear contempt, their technology is laughably primitive. What took us thousands of years to develop, they have stumbled upon through blind luck and brute force methods. High Counselor Vextera rose from her seat. Her crystalline body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. When she spoke, her words came not as sound but as pure thought that entered every mind in the hall. "Show us their history, Ambassador," she requested. "Let the council see what manner of beings we are dealing with." Zethkar's tentacles twisted. With pleasure! This was the part he had been looking forward to most. The holographic display changed again, now showing scenes from human history. Wars raged across the images. Explosions lit up the darkness. Soldiers fought and died in muddy trenches. They are constantly at war with each other, Zethkar explained. In just the last 100 cycles, they have fought 2 massive global conflicts. They have developed nuclear weapons and used them against their own species. Their planet still bears radiation scars from these attacks. The assembled delegates made sounds of disgust and horror. The peace-loving Altarians covered their large eyes with their webbed hands. The logical systematicians processed this information with visible distress, their mechanical parts clicking rapidly. The images continued to cycle through human conflicts. Medieval battles with swords and arrows, naval combat with massive metal ships firing explosive shells, aerial dogfights with primitive aircraft, modern warfare with tanks and missiles. They fight over everything, Zethkar continued. Land, resources, ideas, even invisible concepts. They call religion and politics. They cannot seem to exist without killing each other. Delegate Morthok of the Insectoid Collective clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. What is their population size? He asked in his buzzing voice. Nearly 8 billion individuals on their homeworld alone, Zethkar replied. And they breed constantly, with no regard for resource management or environmental balance. This caused an uproar among the delegates. 8 billion beings on a single planet was considered massively overpopulated by galactic standards. Most civilized worlds maintain populations of no more than 1 billion to ensure harmony with their environment. Surely they must have some form of planetary government, suggested Counselor Yaxeta, her scaled head tilting with confusion. Some central authority that maintains order. Zethkar's amusement grew stronger. They have nearly 200 separate governments, each claiming authority over different portions of their world. These governments frequently disagree and sometimes wage war against each other. They cannot even cooperate enough to explore space as a unified species. The council chamber erupted in shocked conversations. Delegates turned to their neighbors, speaking in rapid bursts of their native languages. The translation systems worked. overtime to keep up with the flood of horrified commentary. "Order! Order!" Vextera's mental voice cut through the chaos like a crystal blade. The chamber fell silent immediately. "Ambassador Zechikar, please continue your report." "Thank you, High Counselor." Zethkar straightened his forearms and composed himself. "The humans have also shown remarkable disregard for their own planet's health. They have polluted their air and water. They have driven thousands of other species to extinction. They consume resources at an unsustainable rate and show no signs of changing their behavior." The holographic display now showed images of human industrial activity. Smoke poured from tall chimneys. Plastic waste floated in the oceans. Forests were cut down to make room for cities and farms. Furthermore, Zethkar continued, their first attempt at space exploration was motivated not by scientific curiosity or peaceful expansion, but by military competition between two of their largest governments. They literally raced each other to reach their moon, spending enormous resources on what was essentially a territorial dispute. Delegate Quintara of the Peaceful Union raised one of her many arms. What of their cultural development? Do they create art, music, literature? They do, Zethkar admitted grudgingly. But even their entertainment is filled with violence. Their stories celebrate warriors and conflicts. Their music often speaks of love and loss in terms of battle. Their art frequently depicts scenes of war and destruction. He paused for effect, looking around the chamber to make sure he had everyone's attention. Most telling of all, he said, when Captain Morrison encountered our containment barriers. At the edge of their system, his immediate response was to try to force his way through them. No attempt at communication, no respectful inquiry about the nature of the barriers. He simply tried to break through using brute force. The chamber fell into troubled silence. Every species in the Galactic Council had approached first contact with careful protocols, respectful messages, and patient diplomacy. The idea of trying to smash through unknown barriers was foreign to their thinking. The evidence is clear, Zethkar concluded. Humans are too violent, too primitive, and too dangerous to be allowed into galactic civilization. They would disrupt the peace we have maintained for 3,000 years. They would bring their wars and conflicts to our worlds. Vextera's crystalline form pulsed with deep thought. "What do you recommend, Ambassador?" continued Quarantine. Zethkar replied immediately. "We maintain the barriers around their solar system. We monitor their development from a safe distance. Perhaps in another 1,000 years they will learn to control their violent impulses. Perhaps they will develop wisdom to match their crude technology. And if they do not," asked Counselor Drexvar, his rocky form grinding as he shifted position. Zethkar's tentacles writhed in what might have been a shrug. "Then they will destroy themselves, as violent species eventually do. Either way, the galaxy will be safer. Without them." The debate that followed lasted for 3 full days. Species after species rose to speak about the human problem. Some argued for limited contact. Others suggested sending teachers to help humans develop proper civilization. A few even proposed more direct intervention. But in the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would remain quarantined in their solar system until they proved themselves worthy of joining galactic society. The barriers would be strengthened, monitoring would continue, and the galaxy would remain peaceful and orderly, just as it had for millennia. None of the delegates considered that. Quarantining a species that had never been successfully conquered might not end the way they expected. None of them thought about what happens when you cage a predator and then turn your back on it. The council session ended with satisfaction all around. The human problem had been solved with wisdom and restraint. The galaxy was safe from contamination. By primitive violence, they would learn how wrong they were soon enough. Dr. Lisa Parker stood at the podium in the United Earth Assembly Hall. Behind her, a massive screen showed the energy readings that had changed everything. 300 world leaders sat in the curved rows of seats, their faces grim as they listened to her report. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Parker began, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to reveal. 6 months ago, Captain Jake Morrison encountered something impossible at the edge of our solar system. An invisible wall made of pure energy that stopped his ship dead in space. The screen behind her showed the New Horizons sensor readings. Strange patterns of energy danced across the display, forming barriers that stretched across space like invisible prison walls. "We have spent 6 months analyzing this data," Dr. Parker continued. "Our best scientists, our most advanced computers, our greatest minds have all reached the same conclusion. We are not alone in the universe, and whoever else is out there has decided we are not welcome to join them." President Chen Wei leaned forward in his seat. His weathered face showed the strain of months of secret meetings and classified reports. "Dr. Parker, are you saying we are prisoners on our own planet?" "More than that, Mr. President, we are prisoners in our own solar system. The barriers extend all the way around our sun. Nothing with our level of technology can pass through them. We are in a cage, and someone else holds the key." A murmur of anger rippled through the assembly. These were the leaders of every nation on Earth. They were used to being in control, to having options, to finding solutions. The idea of being trapped by unknown forces was almost impossible to accept. Secretary General Maria Santos raised her hand. "What do we know about these barriers? How do they work?" Dr. Parker clicked a button, and the display changed to show technical diagrams. "The energy signatures are unlike anything we have ever seen. They appear to be self-maintaining fields that respond to approaching objects. When Captain Morrison tried to push through, the barriers pushed back with exactly enough force to stop him without causing damage." "That sounds almost polite," observed Prime Minister David Clark of the European Federation. "That is exactly what worries me," Dr. Parker replied. "These barriers are not meant to destroy us. They are meant to contain us. Someone out there thinks we need to be kept away from the rest of the galaxy." The implications hung heavy in the air. Earth's leaders sat in uncomfortable silence, processing the reality that humanity was being judged and found wanting by creatures they had never met. "What are our options?" asked Chancellor Emma Fisher. Dr. Parker took a deep breath. "Conventional wisdom says we should try to communicate, send messages of peace, show them our art, our music, our culture, prove that we are civilized beings worthy of joining whatever galactic community exists out there." She paused, her expression hardening. "But I believe that approach is exactly what they expect from us. They have made a decision about humanity based on limited observation. They see our wars and call us violent. They see our independence and call us primitive. They have decided what we are without ever asking us what we could become." President Chen Wei stood up slowly. "What are you suggesting, Dr. Parker?" "I am suggesting we show them something they do not expect, something they cannot predict or control. I am suggesting we show them what happens when you corner the most adaptable species on Earth." The room erupted in heated discussion. Some leaders called for caution and diplomacy. Others demanded immediate military action. Still others suggested trying to understand the alien technology before making any decisions. Dr. Parker waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "We have one advantage our captors do not know about. They have been watching us, but they have been watching us fight each other. They have never seen what happens when humanity unites against a common threat." Over the next 3 hours, Dr. Parker laid out her proposal. Project Breakthrough would be the largest cooperative effort in human history. Every nation would contribute resources. Every scientist would share knowledge. Every military would coordinate strategy. The goal was simple in concept, but staggering in scope. Humanity would build a fleet capable of breaking through the barriers by force. They would not ask permission to join the galactic community. They would demand their place in it. "The barriers respond to our current technology," Dr. Parker explained. "But we will not use our current technology. We will develop new technology, specifically designed to overcome these obstacles." The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. Some delegates argued for peaceful contact attempts. Others wanted to focus on defensive preparations in case the aliens decided to take more direct action. A few suggested that humanity should accept its quarantine and work on improving its civilization, but in the end, the vote was unanimous. Project Breakthrough would proceed with full global support. 6 months later, the lunar shipyards buzzed with activity that could be seen from Earth's surface. Massive construction frames held the skeletons of ships unlike anything humanity had ever built. These were not exploration vessels or scientific platforms. They were weapons of war designed by a species that had been perfecting the art of conflict for thousands of years. Commander Bill Stevens walked through the construction bay where the flagship was taking shape. The USS Liberty stretched nearly a kilometer from bow to stern. Her hull was not made from simple steel or aluminum, but from new alloys developed specifically for this mission. Her weapons were not conventional rockets or lasers, but systems that pushed the boundaries of human physics. "How many more weeks until completion?" asked Dr. Parker as she joined Stevens on the observation deck. 8 weeks for the Liberty," Stevens replied. 12 weeks for the full fleet. 200 ships, each one designed to do something our alien watchers think is impossible. Dr. Parker nodded as she studied the technical displays. Each ship in the fleet had been designed for a specific purpose. Some carried weapons that could punch through energy barriers. Others were loaded with electronic warfare systems that could disrupt alien technology. Still others were packed with the most dangerous cargo of all, human creativity and determination. "Do you really think this will work?" Stevens asked quietly. Dr. Parker smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "Commander, these aliens have made one critical mistake. They think they understand us because they have watched us fight each other, but we have never been fighting each other. We have been practicing." The construction continued around the clock. Human engineers worked alongside alien technology. They had reverse engineered from the barrier interactions. Human physicists developed new theories of space and energy based on observations of the containment fields. Human strategists planned for a conflict unlike any in their species. History. But it was not just weapons and ships that were being prepared. In secret facilities around the world, humanity's best minds were working on something far more dangerous than any physical weapon. They were developing artificial intelligence systems designed specifically for warfare against unknown alien technology. Captain Morrison had been promoted to admiral and placed in command of the Advanced Reconnaissance Group. His modified New Horizon led a small fleet of scout ships that probed the barriers constantly, learning their patterns and weaknesses. The barriers pulse in regular cycles, Morrison reported during one of the daily briefings. Every 73 minutes, there is a moment of reduced power that lasts exactly 12 seconds. If we hit them at the right moment with enough force, we might be able to break through. Admiral Kate Rodriguez studied the tactical displays. From her command ship, she had been chosen to lead the main fleet when the time came. Her reputation for unconventional tactics and her willingness to take calculated risks had made her the obvious choice. "The aliens think they know how we fight," Rodriguez told her assembled captains during their final briefing. "They have watched us use conventional weapons and traditional strategies. They expect us to follow the same patterns we have always followed." She paused, looking each captain in the eye. "But we are not going to fight like humans have always fought. We are going to fight like humans have never fought before, because we have never had a reason to fight like this before." The fleet was ready. 200 ships crewed by the best humanity had to offer. Each ship carried not just weapons and technology, but something far more precious: the combined knowledge and determination of an entire species that had just learned it was not welcome in the wider universe. The aliens had quarantined humanity to protect their peaceful galaxy from human violence. They were about to learn that quarantining humans had not made them less dangerous. It had given them time to become more dangerous than the galaxy had ever imagined possible. Project Breakthrough was complete. Now it was time to see what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. The aliens were about to get their first real lesson in human nature. The emergency alarm echoed through the crystal halls of the Galactic Council for the first time in over 300 years. Ambassador Zefkar rushed through the corridors, his forearms moving quickly as he tried to understand what was happening. Other delegates were running too, their various forms of movement creating a chaotic scene of panic. Intelligence Coordinator Taishino was already at the main monitoring station when Zefkar arrived. Her insectoid form clicked rapidly as she processed incoming data from dozens of different sources. "What is the situation?" Zefkar demanded, his tentacles writhing with anxiety. "The humans," Taishino replied, her compound eyes reflecting the glow of the tactical displays. "They have been building something in their solar system. Our long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures. The main display screen showed the Sol system from a distance. Bright dots of light moved in formation around the third planet. Even from this far away, the energy readings were impressive. How many ships? Zefkar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. Our best estimate is 200 vessels, Tyshonal reported. They appear to be military in nature, heavily armed and shielded. We initially dismissed them as cargo haulers, but closer analysis shows weapon systems that exceed our expectations for their technology level. High Council of Xera materialized in the monitoring center, her crystalline form pulsing with urgent energy. Show me everything, she commanded. The display changed to show detailed scans of the human fleet. Each ship was different from the others, but all shared certain characteristics. Heavy armor plating, multiple weapon systems, energy signatures that suggested power sources far beyond what humans should have been able to develop. This is impossible, Zefkar said, staring at the readings. 6 months ago, their most advanced ship could barely leave their atmosphere. Now they have built a war fleet that rivals our own defensive forces. There is more, Tyshonel added. Reluctantly, the ships are not just armed, they are moving toward the barriers. It appears they intend to attempt a breakthrough. The assembled delegates exchanged worried glances. The barriers around the Sol system were powered by technology that had been developed over thousands of years. They were designed to contain any civilization that lacked the wisdom to use advanced technology responsibly. No species had ever successfully broken through them by force. Surely they do not believe they can simply smash through our containment fields, Vextara said, her mental voice carrying a note of disbelief. The answer came 18 hours later in a way that none of the council members expected. Every communication device in the galaxy began broadcasting the same signal at the same time. Emergency channels, diplomatic frequencies, private communications, even children's toys that could receive broadcasts suddenly carried the same human voice. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Fleet. The voice said in perfect Galactic Standard language. We tried knocking politely. You locked us in. We tried being patient. You ignored us. Now we are done asking for permission. The broadcast showed images of the human fleet assembled at the edge of their solar system. 200 ships in perfect formation, their weapons powered and pointed directly at the barriers that had contained them for so long. We know you are out there, Morrison continued. We know you have been watching us. We know you have decided we are too primitive, too violent, too dangerous for your civilized galaxy. You made this decision without ever talking to us. You judged us without ever meeting us. The camera angle shifted to show Morrison's face. He looked calm, but his eyes held a determination that made even the most confident council members feel uneasy. We are coming to your party whether you invited us or not, Morrison concluded. If you want to stop us, then try to stop us. But understand this, we are not the same humans you have been watching. We are what humans become when you give us a challenge worth rising to meet. The broadcast ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. For the first time in recorded history, a quarantined species was not asking for permission to join galactic civilization. They were demanding their place in it. The Council's response was swift and predictable. Fleet Admiral Korthvan of the Hegemony Defense Force was ordered to intercept the human fleet with overwhelming force. 3 full battle groups moved toward the Sol system, their ships carrying the most advanced weapons and defenses the galaxy had to offer. Korthvan was a veteran of dozens of campaigns against pirates and rebels. His tactics had been studied and refined over centuries of successful operations. He approached the human fleet with the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. The 2 fleets met at the edge of the Sol system, where the barriers hummed with defensive energy. The alien ships were elegant and streamlined, their hulls gleaming with advanced materials. The human ships looked crude and primitive by comparison, but they bristled with weapons that the aliens did not recognize. Admiral Kate Rodriguez commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the USS Liberty. She opened communications with the alien commander, her image appearing on screens throughout both fleets. I am Fleet Admiral Korthvan of the Galactic Hegemony, the alien commander announced, his translated voice carrying the authority of millennia. You are in violation of Galactic Statute 847. Stand down immediately and return to your world. Proper diplomatic channels will be opened when you have proven your species is ready for civilized contact. Rodriguez listened to the demand with a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Around her, the bridge crew of the Liberty worked at their stations with calm efficiency. These were people who had trained for this moment for years. Fleet Admiral Corfin Rodriguez replied, her voice carrying clearly across the void between the fleets. I am Admiral Kate Rodriguez of the United Earth Fleet. The only statute we recognize is the right to go where we please, when we please. You want to stop us? Then stop us. The alien admiral's response was immediate and overwhelming. His 3 battle groups moved into perfect formation, their weapon systems charging with energy that lit up the darkness of space. It was a display meant to intimidate, to show the humans exactly how outmatched they were. But the human response was not what anyone expected. Instead of forming their own battle line or retreating in the face of superior firepower, the human ships simply scattered. 200 vessels suddenly moved in 200 different directions, their formations dissolving into what looked like complete chaos. What are they doing? Corfin demanded of his tactical officers. This is not a recognized battle formation. There is no strategy in this disorder. His intelligence coordinator studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. Sir, each ship appears to be operating independently. There is no central command structure we can identify. They are not following any tactical doctrine in our databases. What the aliens were witnessing was something completely outside their experience. Every galactic civilization fought according to established principles of warfare. Formations, hierarchies, predictable patterns of attack and defense. But humans had learned to fight on a world where the most successful predators were not the largest or strongest, but the most adaptable. The human fleet moved like a school of fish through a reef, each ship both individual and part of a greater whole. They flowed around the alien formations, striking from unexpected angles, retreating when pressed, regrouping in new configurations that changed faster than the alien computers could analyze. Lieutenant Commander Sam Bishop led the first wave of human fighters in his ship, the Wasp. These small craft had been dismissed by the aliens as insignificant, but they moved with a deadly precision that spoke of millions of years of evolutionary development. All fighters, execute pattern Delta 7, Bishop commanded. Remember, we are not trying to destroy them. We are trying to teach them something. The human fighters swarmed around the massive alien dreadnoughts like insects around sleeping giants. They were too small and too fast for the heavy weapons to target effectively, but their own weapons were perfectly suited for striking at specific points on the larger ships. Within minutes, the aliens found their communication systems disrupted, their sensor arrays blinded, their weapon targeting systems confused by electronic warfare techniques that seemed to adapt and evolve in real time. They fight like a virus, Corfin reported to the council, his voice carrying unprecedented fear. They do not destroy our ships. They infect them, learn from them, turn our own systems against us. This is not warfare as we understand it. This is something completely different. The human fleet pressed their advantage not with overwhelming firepower, but with tactics that violated every principle of civilized combat. They used captured alien technology against its creators. They adapted to new weapons faster than those weapons could be deployed. They turned every setback into a lesson and every lesson into a weapon. Admiral Rodriguez broadcast a final message to the retreating alien fleet. This is what you get when you cage apex predators for too long. We do not just fight to win, we fight to survive. And we have been surviving longer than your species have been civilized. The barriers that had contained humanity for so long began to crack under the assault of weapons designed specifically to break them. The battle that followed changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. Fleet Admiral Corfin had expected a primitive slugging match between crude human weapons and advanced alien technology. Instead, he found himself facing something that military historians would later call the perfect example of evolution in action. Lieutenant Commander Sam Bishop led his squadron of fighters through the alien formation like a swarm of angry hornets. His ship, the Wasp, twisted and rolled between the massive alien dreadnoughts with movements that seemed impossible for a mechanical vessel. Red Squadron, Follow my lead. Bishop commanded over the communication channel. Remember what we learned. In training, they fight like chess masters. We fight like water. The human fighters moved in patterns that looked completely random to the alien observers. Ships would suddenly change direction without warning. Groups would split apart and come back together in new formations. Individual pilots would break away from their units to attack targets of opportunity, then rejoin the battle wherever they were needed most. The alien fleet tried to respond with their traditional tactics. Battle lines formed with mathematical precision. Weapons fired in coordinated volleys designed to create overlapping fields of destruction. Defense grids activated to protect the most important ships. But the human fleet flowed around these defenses like water around rocks. Every time the aliens created a formation, the humans found a way to attack it from an angle that had not been defended. Every time the aliens adapted their defenses, the humans had already moved on to a completely different strategy. Captain Maria Santos commanded the destroyer Defiance with tactics that made the alien commanders question their understanding of military logic. Her ship would charge straight at an enemy vessel, weapons blazing, only to suddenly reverse course at the last moment and retreat behind the cover of asteroids or debris. They are cowards. One alien tactical officer reported to his commander. They attack and then run away when we respond. But Admiral Cortfin was beginning to understand that something more complex was happening. Each time the human ships retreated, they took with them data about alien weapons, defenses, and response patterns. And each time they returned to attack, they used this information to strike more effectively. They are not retreating, Cortfin realized with growing alarm. They are learning. Every engagement teaches them something new about how we fight. The Defiance demonstrated this perfectly when it returned for its third attack run on the alien heavy cruiser Dominance. This time, Captain Santos knew exactly where the ship's weapons would fire and how long it would take them to recharge. She knew which direction the ship would turn to bring its strongest shields to bear. She knew how the crew would respond to different types of threats. The Defiance slipped through the cruiser's defenses like a knife through silk, delivering a devastating close-range bombardment that left the alien crew stunned by its precision and audacity. How did they know? The cruiser's captain demanded of his intelligence officers. How could they predict our exact response patterns? But it was Colonel Andy White's boarding actions that truly terrified the galaxy. When human weapons disabled alien ships instead of destroying them, teams of human soldiers would dock with the crippled vessels and force their way inside. The aliens expected these boarding parties to behave like traditional invaders. They prepared for brutal close-quarters combat, for attempts to capture prisoners or steal valuable equipment. What they got instead was something far more disturbing. White led the first boarding team onto the alien destroyer Swift Justice through a breach, blown in its hull by human cutting charges. His soldiers moved through the ship with practiced efficiency, but they were not there to fight the crew or steal technology. They were there to study. Team Alpha, secure the bridge. White commanded over his suit's communication system. Team Beta, I want a complete scan of their computer systems. Team Gamma, find their engineering section and map every system they have. The alien crew watched in confusion as the human soldiers ignored valuable equipment and strategic positions to focus on understanding how the ship worked. Human engineers connected portable computers to alien systems. Human technicians took detailed scans of alien weapons and defenses. Human scientists collected samples of alien materials and energy sources within 6 hours. The humans had learned more about alien technology than most species discovered in decades of peaceful contact. And then they did something that no other species had ever attempted. They began modifying the captured alien ship to work with human systems. This is impossible, reported the alien chief engineer, who had been forced to watch the process. Their technology is completely incompatible with ours. The power systems alone should be impossible for them to understand. But the humans did not try to understand alien technology in the way that other species would. They did not analyze it according to established scientific principles or attempt to integrate it into existing theoretical frameworks. Instead, they treated it like a puzzle to be solved through trial and error. When one approach failed, they tried another. When a system refused to work with human technology, they modified the human technology instead of trying to change the alien system. When they encountered problems that should have taken years to solve, they found workarounds that bypassed the problems entirely. The result was horrifying to witness. The Swift Justice was transformed from an elegant alien warship into a hybrid monstrosity that combined the best features of both technologies. Human weapons were mounted alongside alien energy cannons. Human armor was grafted onto alien hull. Plating human computers were networked with alien artificial intelligence systems, and it worked. Not only did it work, but it worked better than either technology had worked alone. They are turning our own ships against us, Admiral Korth reported to the Galactic Council in a transmission that would be studied for centuries. But they are not just capturing our vessels, they are improving them. They are creating new forms of technology that neither of our species could have developed alone. The hybrid ship that had once been the Swift Justice rejoined the human fleet and immediately began sharing its new capabilities with other human vessels. Within hours, the entire human fleet had access to alien shield technology, alien sensors, and alien weapon systems. But the humans did not stop there. They began experimenting with combinations that even the original alien designers had never considered. They used alien energy systems to power human kinetic weapons. They combined alien defensive shields with human electronic warfare systems. They created new tactical possibilities that existed nowhere. In Galactic military doctrine, Captain Morrison watched the battle unfold from the bridge of his flagship with a mixture of pride and amazement. The human fleet had begun the engagement as the obvious underdog, outnumbered and outgunned by an enemy with superior technology and thousands of years of military experience. But as the hours passed, it became clear that superior technology and experience were not enough when facing an enemy that could adapt faster than you could change your tactics. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the alien fleet is beginning to withdraw. Their formation is breaking up." Morrison nodded as he watched the alien ships retreat toward the edge of the solar system. Several of their vessels had been captured and converted to human use. Others had been disabled by weapons that had not existed at the beginning of the battle. Still, others were fleeing in disorder as their crews struggled to understand what had happened to their supposedly invincible fleet. "Open a channel to Admiral Korthvin," Morrison commanded. The alien admiral's face appeared on the main screen, his features showing exhaustion and confusion. "What do you want, human? I want to make sure you understand what just happened here," Morrison replied calmly. "You came here to stop us with superior technology and overwhelming force. You failed because you made the same mistake your council made. You assumed you understood us without ever really knowing us." Morrison paused, letting his words sink in. "We do not fight to prove we are the strongest or the most advanced. We fight to survive, and survival requires adaptation. Every species in your galaxy has forgotten how to adapt because you have not faced a real challenge in thousands of years. You have become comfortable with your superiority." The alien admiral said nothing, but his expression showed that he was beginning to understand. "This is what humans do," Morrison continued. "We take whatever you throw at us, we learn from it, and we use it to become stronger. You wanted to contain us to protect your peaceful galaxy, but you cannot contain evolution itself." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Korthvin to contemplate the ruins of everything he had thought he knew about warfare, technology, and the nature of intelligence itself. The human fleet had not just won a battle, they had demonstrated a completely new way of thinking about conflict and adaptation. The galaxy would never be the same. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 3 days straight. Delegates who had not spoken to each other in anger for thousands of years were now shouting across the Crystal Hall. The careful order that had governed galactic civilization was crumbling as reports continued to arrive from the human front. Ambassador Zethkar stood at his speaking platform, his forearms trembling as he read the latest intelligence reports. His tentacles, which had writhed with amusement just weeks before, now hung limp with shock and exhaustion. "The humans have established a permanent colony at Proxima Centauri," he announced to the assembled delegates. "They broke through our barriers using weapons and tactics that our military analysts still do not fully understand. 3 of our member species have already begun trade negotiations with them. High Counselor Vextera S. crystalline form pulsed with chaotic patterns of light. Her mental voice, usually calm and controlled, carried notes of confusion and fear that disturbed every mind in the chamber. "How is this possible?" she demanded. "The barriers were designed to contain any species that lacked the wisdom to use advanced technology responsibly. No civilization has ever broken through them by force. The humans did not break through them by force alone," reported Intelligence Coordinator TSNO. "They adapted to them. They studied our technology, learned how it worked, and then developed new methods to overcome it. They turned our own defenses into tools for their advancement." The Great Hall erupted in voices, speaking dozens of different languages. The elegant Altarians clicked their beaks in distress. The logical systematicians processed this information with visible strain. Even the ancient eternal minds, who rarely spoke at all, sent ripples of concern through the quantum field that connected them. Delegate Morthok of the Insectoid Collective raised his clawed arm for attention. "What of Fleet Admiral Cortfin's battle group? Surely our most experienced military commander was able to contain this threat." Zethkar's expression grew even more grim. "Admiral Cortfin's forces were defeated, not destroyed, but defeated, in a way that challenges everything we thought we knew about warfare. The humans did not simply overpower our ships. They captured them, studied them, and turned them into hybrid vessels that are more effective than anything either species had developed alone." This revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. The idea that primitive human technology could be combined with advanced galactic systems to create something superior was almost impossible to accept. Furthermore, Zethkar continued, "The humans have not behaved as we expected after their victory. They have not attempted to conquer our worlds or demand tribute. Instead, they have opened diplomatic channels and begun offering trade agreements." A new voice spoke from the entrance to the chamber. Dr. Lisa Parker walked into the hall, wearing a simple Earth dress uniform, her presence causing a stir among delegates who had never seen a human in person. "Honored delegates of the Galactic Council," Dr. Parker said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "I am Dr. Lisa Parker, representing the United Earth Federation. We come not as conquerors, but as equals, seeking our rightful place in galactic civilization." The hall fell silent as every delegate turned to study this representative of the species that had just shattered their understanding of military science. Dr. Parker appeared completely ordinary by galactic standards. No natural weapons, no advanced technology visible on her person, no obvious signs of the capabilities her species had just demonstrated. "You speak of rights," Counselor Drexvar rumbled, his rocky form grinding as he shifted position. "What gives your species the right to force your way into our peaceful civilization?" Dr. Parker smiled, but it was not an aggressive expression. "Counselor Drexvar, you made assumptions about us based on limited observation. You watched us for centuries, but you never tried to understand us. You saw our conflicts and called us violent. You saw our weapons and called us primitive. You saw our independence and called us unworthy." She paused, looking around the chamber at faces that represented dozens of different evolutionary paths. "But you never asked yourselves the most important question. Why has a species that fights constantly among itself never been conquered by any external force?" The implications of her words hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. Every species in the galaxy had been conquered at some point in their history. Wars between different groups had led to the dominance of one faction over others. Unity had come through the victory of the strong over the weak. But humans had achieved global cooperation while maintaining their independence. They had learned to work together without surrendering their individual identities. They had turned competition into a tool for advancement rather than a path to domination. "You see violence where we see adaptation," Dr. Parker continued. "You see chaos where we see innovation. You see primitive aggression where we see the drive to overcome any obstacle placed in our path." Vexera's crystalline form pulsed with new patterns of light as she processed this information. "You are saying that your conflicts were not failures of civilization, but expressions of your species' fundamental nature. Every human war has been a laboratory for innovation," Dr. Parker replied. Every conflict has taught us new ways to solve problems, develop technology, and adapt to changing circumstances. We did not fight despite our intelligence. We became intelligent because we were willing to fight. The revelation transformed the entire debate. The Council had seen human warfare as evidence of primitive barbarism, but Dr. Parker was describing it as the evolutionary engine that had driven humanity to develop the very capabilities that had just defeated the galaxy's most advanced military forces, Captain. Morrison entered the chamber through the main doors, his presence causing another stir among the delegates. Unlike Dr. Parker's diplomatic uniform, Morrison wore the practical clothing of a ship captain, reinforcing the image of humans as practical problem solvers rather than elegant theorists. Captain Morrison, Vexthera addressed him directly. Your species has demonstrated capabilities that our best scientists claimed were impossible. How do you explain this? Morrison looked around the chamber with the calm expression of someone who had faced the unknown and emerged victorious. Hi, Counselor. We explain it the same way we explain everything else. We saw a problem. We found a solution, and we implemented that solution as efficiently as possible. But the barriers were designed to be impenetrable, protested Counselor Yaxtata. Our greatest minds spent thousands of years developing that technology. With respect, Counselor Morrison replied, your greatest minds spent thousands of years developing technology to contain species that think like you do. You never considered what would happen when you tried to contain a species that thinks differently. The simple truth of his words echoed through the chamber. The galactic civilization had been built by species that valued order, hierarchy, and careful progress. They had created barriers designed to contain other species like themselves. But humans operated according to completely different principles. Dr. Parker stepped forward again. We did not arrive late to galactic civilization. We arrived precisely when we were ready to reshape it. Your peaceful galaxy has been stagnating for millennia because you eliminated the challenges that drive innovation and growth. She gestured toward the great windows that showed the stars beyond. You created a perfect society by removing everything that makes societies grow and change. You achieved peace by eliminating the competition that drives advancement. You maintained order by suppressing the chaos that leads to new discoveries. The assembled delegates sat in uncomfortable silence as they processed the implications of her words. Their perfect galactic civilization had been perfect precisely because it had excluded the elements that would have made it dynamic and growing. What do you want from us? Zethkar asked finally, his voice small and defeated. Morrison and Dr. Parker exchanged glances before Morrison answered. We want what we have always wanted. The freedom to explore, to grow, to face new challenges, and overcome them. We do not want to conquer your worlds or destroy your peace. But we will not be contained or controlled. The galaxy is large enough for all of us, Dr. Parker added. But it will have to be a different kind of galaxy now. One where growth and change are possible again. One where species can evolve and adapt instead of remaining frozen in perfect stability. High Counselor Vexthera's form pulsed with complex patterns as she reached a decision that would echo through galactic history. The barriers around the Sol system will be permanently deactivated. Humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all the rights and responsibilities. That entails, she paused, her mental voice carrying a note of something that might have been excitement. Furthermore, we invite human advisors to help us redesign our civilization to incorporate the principles of adaptation and growth that your species has demonstrated. The vote that followed was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The galaxy had been forced to confront the reality that their perfect society had been slowly dying of its own perfection. The humans had not arrived as conquerors or destroyers,